Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're shortly about to recommence the meeting. We've already had two classes run. The Yorkshire Centre members class and the Ferraris, that was pre-lunch. The Yorkshire Centre members class currently being led by James Harris on 63.6, with Peter Vincent second, 65.73. And in third place on 67.17, Paul Harris, also in that Formula Ford Van Diemen. In the Ferraris, Steve Thompson leads with getting within 100th of a second of the class record. He's in a 4.88 GTB. In second place, David Snelson in the 4.30 on 66.26. And in third, John Kennedy in the 360 Modena, 67.57. So those are the classes we had prior to the lunch break. We should be kicking off with Class A1. There are a few changes to the programme, so if you want to grab your programme to make a note of these, turn to page 24. And in Class C3, car number 98, Stephen Darley, is now driving a Legacy GL, which is Damien Bradley's car, so that's a shared drive. Our next change is on page 26, and in J2, number 135, Stuart Dow, has withdrawn. And then the final changes on page 28 in the Yorkshire Centre members class 27. Number 65 Carl Jackson and number 78 John Heseltine have both withdrawn. So those are the only changes to the programme that have been notified. And as I say, we're due to be sending the cars down to the start line very shortly to recommence the action. We've already had in practice two drivers inside the hill record, which augurs well for the runoff. But also it sort of knocks on into all the other classes, which means that most of the class records can be up for grabs. Some of them date back to 2011, 2006 in Sports Libra, that phenomenal record by Matthew Harrison in the Spa Judd. I think that is probably the oldest class record that we've got at this meeting today. Of course, hill climbing started here at Harewood back in 1962. The first meeting on the 13th of September, on the 16th of September that year, with Tony Lanfranchi setting fastest time of the day. His cousin David is here, or was here yesterday. The first British Hillclimb Championship meeting was in 1964, and Peter Westbury won, driving the Ferguson P99 four-wheel drive. We moved over from the short course to the long course in 1992, and Roy Lane was the first driver to win a Hillclimb Championship. Got a text message up. Please say hello to Harry Holhan, age 3, here at the Hill for the first motorsport event with his mum and dad. So good to see them starting young. So the first car is onto the start line. And that is number 815, Richard Weaver in the OMS Hornet. Richard and his son Tom, with the OMS Hornet this year, drove a Formula Ford Van Diemen very successfully last season. Richard is off and running through Clarks, already dropping down the hill towards the S's. Through the S's, now into Chippies, past the old start line. Now heading up into Country Corner. across the hill to Willow. Into Orchard. Now charging through the farm buildings into Farmhouse Bend. And out of Farmhouse Bend on the charge up to Quarry Corner, where he spun in first practice. Into the corner already and through over the finishing line with a time of 60.81. So, sorry for the interruption to the broadcast, and here we've got Robin Wood now charging up to the top part of the hill with the Force PT into Quarry. And Robin through the finish in a time of 62.81. So, I've obviously missed something at the lower part of the hill. Richard Summers now into Quarry as well in the DJ Firehawk, and Richard sets a new PB, 54.04. Looking out for Caroline Ryder in the Van Diemen RF 86, first of our Formula Fords. Alex Cole spun this car on second practice. Looks perfectly okay now. Caroline already up into Orchard, making her way towards Farmhouse. Through Farmhouse Bend, on the run up to Quarry. Caroline Ryder through the last element of Quarry over the finish. The new personal best, 65.95. Away from the start line, Stuart Sugden. Stuart sharing the GWR Raptor with Les Much. Down into Chippies. Heading towards Willow. Charging up towards Farmhouse. First practice yesterday, he didn't make it past Orchard, ended up in the gravel trap, but no problems today for Stuart as he heads up to the top of the hill, into Quarry already, around Quarry, over the finish, 53.14, new personal best for Stuart Sugden. Adam Greenan on the hill now in the Empire Evo 3, heading towards Willow. A new car for the Greenan brothers this season. And also gets a little bit sideways coming out the corner, so cameras at the ready. And as always, keeps it on a nice tight line through Farmhouse, goes to the commentators. And Adam Greenan over the finishing line, 52.34, new PB. On the start line at the moment, it's number 709, Alan Warburton in the Gould GR59. Already heading down towards the S's. This is the X-Works GR59 with the Hayabusa 1.6. Initially by Sean Gould, and Alan and his son David acquired the car. They've been very successful with it since. Alan already out of Willow, hard on the power up into Orchard, through Orchard in a trice, en route to Farmhouse Bend. Good run through Farmhouse, getting the power down early. on the way up to Quarry. Nice tight line on the entry into the first element of Quarry. Now over the finish. 51.4 for Alan Warburton, a new personal best. By some margin, I have to say. Now we pick up, we're back to the beginning of the programme in Class A1 with Jonathan Langmead in the Lotus Elise 135R. And Jonathan on his first visit to Harewood. So this run will establish his PB and set the standard for the rest of his day. And Jonathan Langmead over the finish, 66.35. James Hudson in the Volkswagen Golf, another newcomer to Harewood with this car. James making his way up towards the top part of the hill. Through the first element, lifts a wheel as he goes between the two elements of Quarry and over the finishing line, 67.16, so that becomes his personal best time. Robert Marwood, meanwhile, in the Renault Clio Sport 172, already into and out of Orchard, charging up through the farm buildings, rounds Farmhouse Bend, and heading up to Quarry, pops into view at Quarry, very, very quickly, big lock-up at the midpoint of the corner, and over the finish line, 64.82 for Robert Marwood. David Leach, meanwhile, class winner yesterday with his Lotus Elise, he's heading towards the top part of the hill. If he can replicate his PB, he'll go into the lead of the class. And David into Quarry through the corner, and 65.22 slots him into second place behind Robert Marwood. Heading into Farmhouse at the moment, Phil James in the Porsche Cayman. Another newcomer to Harewood, certainly with this car. And Phil into a very tight line on the run into Quarry, almost on the grass in the first element. Now through the finish, 66.55. And we pick up Peter Herbert now on the live stream going through Orchard Corner. Peter will need to set a PB to go ahead of Phil James. So Peter Herbert in the Porsche 911, left-hand drive car. Peter has campaigned this all over Europe in the European Hillclimb Championship at the times, and he's through the finish, 67.36, slots into second place behind Phil James. Heading into Farmhouse now is John Pick in the AMS new tyre. This runs Subaru Impreza engine, gearbox and running gear. And John Pick into and out of Quarry, 66.63 for John Pick. He's followed up the hill by Robbie Birrell in this very quick Lotus Exige, 3.5 litre supercharged V6. Dab of the brakes just before the final element of the Quarry corner, and 62.29 for Robbie Birrell is a new PB and puts him in the lead of the class. Dylan Flesher now heading up towards the top of the hill. This is the Caterham 7 with this 1 litre Suzuki engine, and he's through the finish into the lead of the class, which with a 61.85, which is also a personal best for Dylan. Now move into Class C1. Eric Moray in this absolutely beautifully constructed Hillman Imp, and it looks like he's got an issue coming out of Farmhouse. Picking up now on the throttle, looks like it might have been either a recalcitrant gear change or possibly fuel starvation of some sort, but it's over the finish line eventually with a 70.48 for Eric Moray. Into Farmhouse currently we have Jeff Twemlow all the way from darkest Cornwall, his Subaru Impreza. Jeff only started hill climbing when he retired. He thought, I need something to do when I'm not working. And Jeff already through the finish, 70.31. He's followed on the hill by Hayden Spedding in the Jaguar E-Type. Hayden's been campaigning this E-Type for a good number of years now. I think you can probably count it in decades. Hayden already up into Quarry, through the finish, 66.15 for Hayden Spedding. Into Farmhouse, ex-Hillclimb champion Roger Moran, Skoda Fabia RS. A rally car built to R5 specification, 1.6 turbocharged engine. Roger just picks up a wheel between the two elements of Quarry and across the finishing line. Cracking run, 59.86 for Roger Moran. Goes into the lead of the class. Jonathan Williamson now into Farmhouse. Porsche 911 Carrera. All the way from Taunton. Jonathan, the finish, 65.39. Rounding Farmhouse at the moment, Damien Bradley. No, it's not right. Damien Bradley, yeah, popping a wheel. And Damien Bradley through the finish, 57.75 is a new class record for Damien Bradley. Bob Bellaby meanwhile on the hill with the Silver Riot, Yamaha R1 1-litre engine, mounted transversely behind the driver. The Silver Riot handles like a dream. Bob heading to the top of the hill, neat and tidy through Quarry, over the finish, 61.7 for Bob Bellaby. Simon Jenks in the Caterham S Sport. This runs, I suppose you call it a full-bodied Suzuki Hayabusa. It's 1657 cc's. And Simon sweeps through the last element of Quarry. 58.46 goes into the lead of Class D. Heading up to Farmhouse now, we have the Mini Evo Mitsubishi four-wheel drive of Alan MacDonald. Trust me, there's very little Mini in this one. It's a space frame chassis, fiberglass body with Mitsubishi Evo running gear and engine gearbox. Alan MacDonald meanwhile over the finish, 59.74. He's followed by Simon Bainbridge in the SBR Chrono V8. This runs an Audi 4.2 litre turbocharged engine, gearbox and transmission. Simon Bainbridge, more used to sprinting, some lighting in a couple of weeks, gets up to the top of the hill, 56.49, which is a new personal best for Simon by, crikey, over 2 seconds. Looking out now for the Pilbeam MP92 of Bob Penrose. This car sports a 7.3 litre Chevrolet V8, tuned by Steve Schmidt in America, and it runs a sequential manual gearbox. Bob Penrose rounding Quarry, gets a flame out of the exhaust, and he's through the finish in 67.59, which becomes Bob's personal best time. Now we're moving into the big car class for the shared cars. And the first one we see is 847 Lynn Owen. Lynn driving the Works OMS 28 with the RPE V8. Husband Steve is Mr. OMS, of course. So Lynn, neat and tidy as always through Farmhouse, charging up towards the top of the hill. Round Quarry and over the finish, 58.98 for Lynn Owen. Next to appear out of Orchard, Sandra Tomlin in the Pilbeam MP97, the Judd V8 4-litre. Charging up towards the the top of the hill, 103 miles an hour recorded through the speed trap. And Sandra over the finish, 58.79. Sitting on the start line is number 708, Matt Ryder. Matt currently lying 5th overall in the British Hillclimb Championship. He's off and running through Clark's Corner, heading down towards the S's. The Gould GR59J runs a 4-litre Judd V8, and it is a very, very small engine. Ooh, look at the zigzag there as he came out of Chippies, through country, now through Willow and heading towards Orchard. Now round Orchard. That Ryder charges through the farm buildings, rounds Farmhouse Bend, power down early. This is a man on a charge. Through the speed trap, no time appearing on the scoreboard. And Matt Ryder through the finish, 48.80 is a new personal best for Matt Ryder. Second away from the hill record. Already underway, Nicola Minguez in the Gould GR55B. This runs a 3.5 litre Nicholson McLaren Cosworth V8. And Nicola, the ladies' hill record holder, with a 53.03. Already into and out of Willow. Nicola through the little elbow before Orchard. Powering up into Farmhouse Bend. Nicola on the charge, 129 indicated for the speed trap. And Nicola over the finish line, 52.98, a new ladies' record. So great from Nicola. Graham Wynn on the hill now with the Gould GR59J. A similar car to Matt Ryder's. Runs the 4-litre Judd V8. Graham shares this car with Scott Moran, who we'll see a little later. Graham now charging up towards Farmhouse. Heading up Quarry Straight, 108 through the speed trap. Round the corner, over the finish, 52.31 for Graham Wynn, is a new personal best. On the hill at the moment, 7:02, Lindsay Summers in the DJ Firestorm 2. This runs a Cosworth XD V8. Lindsay into Farmhouse Bend already. Charging up to the top of the hill. The car into Quarry. Round Quarry and over the finish. 59.01 for Lindsay Summers. We now have the Tiga SF83 on the hill, Robin Johnson at the wheel. This runs a 1.6 litre Peugeot engine. Well, second in his class yesterday in the BARC Yorkshire meeting. Johnson through Farmhouse, charging up towards the top of the hill. He's through the finish, 64.05. Into Farmhouse at the moment. Martin Turner. He's ended up in the gravel. So hopefully we'll get a replay of that. Seems like he's outbraked himself and gone straight on. So the There was another car on the hill at the time. That was Nigel Pitt. Right, we're getting a replay now. And Martin comes into the corner. Oh, and he lost it very early on the braking. Went straight on, just brushed the gravel trap and came to a halt right in front of all the spectators, whose cameras, I'm sure, were clicking away like mad. Right, we've got a close-up view on the live feed at the moment, and it looks like they're trying to push the car back to get it out of the little holes that it's dug for itself. Of course, the hot, sticky slicks have picked up a whole mass of gravel. And I think the best bet is to perhaps get it onto the grass on the outside and then tow it round the outer area of grass, which should, in effect, get rid of most of those stones. So we'll see how they get on. They are actually trying to get rid of some that look to have got onto the bodywork, the side pods. So the snatch recovery vehicle has got round the back of the gravel trap, so it's within tow rope range, as it were, of the stricken Empire. I think the problem is you can't get at the roll hoop to put the tow hook on. So it looks like they're fastening it to a suspension arm. And the question to the answer to the question that Matt Harrison has asked is, thanks for the mention, I wonder if I still hold the sports libra record. Yes, you do. And it's the oldest British Hillclimb Championship record still in existence here at Harewood. And I had the great pleasure to say I was there that day. And it was quick. Daniel Luna from Brazil. I like watching the Hillclimb Championship. Congratulations. Well, thank you for that. It's great to see that the live feed is getting all over the world. We've had Canadians, and we've had New Zealanders, Australians. We had an English gentleman living in Portugal watching yesterday, Eric Humphreys, well known to the OMS family. And the live feed is surprisingly being picked up by people who probably find the whole concept of the British Hillclimb Championship quaint, to say the least. But it is a quintessential grassroots part of motorsport. Some of the first events ever in motorsport were hill climbs. So we've got Martin Turner back in the car now that it's out of the gravel, and the snatch recovery will be getting taking up the slack and towing the car round the gravel trap. Right, so we're moving forward and going very, very slowly. Still a lot of gravel adhered to those rear wheels, so they're getting cleaned off by the marshals. Right, I think they may well be detaching the tow rope now they've got him round the gravel trap. And if Martin can fire it up, he'll be able to drive to the top of the hill. It's not really ideal to tow single-seater racing cars by the suspension. Well, there's more gravel being spooned out of the wings and the side pods. Ramsey Racing, that'll be Jock watching from Scotland. Sunny Scotland, perfect conditions for a new hill record. Well, I think we're all hoping for that, Jock. We've had, as I said, 2 drivers inside the hill record in practice so far, so we're into our first set of time runs. The hill record could go in qualifying, you never know. And we've got Buddy Campbell Racing in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Love waking up on a Sunday morning to watch the British Hillclimb Championship. Well, it's great that it's reaching all the way to America. I know there are a lot of Hillclimb fans in America. A friend of mine over there runs a Formula Ford on the hills. Meanwhile, sitting patiently on the start lines, Tom Weaver in the OMS Hornet. So unfortunately for Martin Turner, number 112, that run was a fail. And Nigel Pitt and Gavin McLaren were on the hill. They've both been red flagged, so they'll get reruns. So they just had to go and get a battery to start the RMS Hornet to get it buzzing. So thumbs up from the pit crew, and Tom Weaver is pushed into the start position, lined up with the beam on the little Burt strut that you see on the front wing. Tom Weaver off and running, charging towards Clark's. Through Clark's corner, down into the S's. Sweeping through the elements of the S's into Chippies. Now heading up towards Country Corner. Across the hill to Willow. Charging up to Orchard. Oh, catches a lovely slide as he goes through the corner. Tom Weaver giving it the beans. Round Farmhouse Bend, charging up towards the top of the hill. The final challenge awaits. Quarry Corner through the first element, over the line in a 55.28, new PB for Tom Weaver. Following him on the hill, Richard Walker. Richard in the OMS FC 04 carbon fibre tub. Richard also using the 1 litre Suzuki engine, already into and out of Quarry through the finish, 58.73. We pick up Anthony Wood in the Force PT into Farmhouse. Saw his brother Robin at the wheel earlier, had an issue in the lower part of the hill. Anthony meanwhile charging up towards the top, through Quarry Corner, over the finish in 55.20, 1.4 seconds better than his previous best time. Cracking run from Anthony Wood. Debbie Dunbar, or should we say Debbie Summers, with the DJ Firehawk now on her way to Quarry. Debbie neat and tidy through the top part of the hill, over the finish 54.78. Out now for David Tatum, he's heading towards Farmhouse Bend. He gets another OMS Hornet. Class winner yesterday in the Harewood Hillclimb Championship meeting. David Tatum hops the curb as he goes through the final elements of the corner at Quarry, 54.75 to go into second place behind Richard Summers. David Findlay now. Well, in fact, that's not David Findlay on the screen. It's Gavin McLaren, OMS 2000M on a rerun. This is the first visit for Gavin in this car to Harewood. The OMS 2000M, a space frame chassis running the Suzuki GSXR engine. And Gavin over the finish, 64.49. And that establishes his PB. We're now looking out for David Findlay. Here he comes into Orchard. David in this Reynard Formula Ford from 1986. His first season in single seaters. And he's heading up towards Quarry. Neat and tidy run. Takes a couple of bites of the cherry to get around the last element, and it's a 65.58 to go into the lead of the class. We now have Alex Coles going relatively sedately. So what have I missed on the lower part of the hill? But Alex is going very, very slowly and seems to be being caught hand over fist by Sarah Bosworth. Finally out of Farmhouse. Looks like we're going to get a red flag. Yes, we are, for Sarah Bosworth. So Alex Cole going very, very slowly towards the top of the hill. And over the finish line, 82.83. And oddly enough, that establishes a personal best for Alex. I don't think he'll be happy with that. Sarah Bosworth, meanwhile, having been red flagged, will have to join the queue of traffic for her rerun, having got to the top of the hill. And the other two cars that were on the hill at the same time, which were Rob Spedding, number 128, and Simon Mackay in the GWR Raptor, have both been red flagged, so they too will be taking reruns a little bit later. In fact, Sarah Bosworth is already heading down to the start line, but there are a heck of a lot of cars between her and that start line. So we've got a replay here coming up of Tom Weaver on a charge. Got another. I thought we were going to get another replay then. So we've got on the screen at the moment, sitting on the start line, is Les Much in the GWR Raptor. Stephanie Archer posted, please say happy birthday to Dave. We are watching and loving it. Mac 65, watching from down under, waiting for the hill record to get smashed in ideal conditions today. Well, I think you're right, Mac. I think we are looking at the hill record being broken. But the question is, by how much and by how many drivers? Super Matronic, wishing Pete Vincent the best of luck, looking good so far. Cheers from Argentina, enjoying it as usual on Sunday mornings here. Beautiful track and amazing broadcasting, Gin Tonica. Well done, Tom Weaver, driven like a true Weaver from Liam Weaver. Yes. I think he's slightly better than his dad, though. Right, so the start line marshal just checking that Les Much is lined up correctly. It looks like we're about to get back underway. Les Much off the start line, heading into Clark's. The GWR Raptor charging down towards the S's, sweeping through the S's. Les now heading towards Country, negotiating chippies, across towards Willow. On the run up to Orchard through that nasty little elbow. Caught Trevor Willis out yesterday. Les Much charging up through the farm buildings into Farmhouse Bend. Just the run to the quarry corner. Negotiate, and Les Much over the finishing line. 52.80 for Les Much. That puts him into third place in the class at the moment. Darren Gumbley on the hill, the Force TA running a 1.6 litre Hayabusa engine, reportedly putting out more brake horsepower than Ian Price's car, which we'll see shortly. Darren Gumbley neat and tidy through Orchard on a charge up to Farmhouse Bend. Darren seems to have conquered those issues he was having with the electronics. Now through the finish, 52.02 for Darren Gumbley, a new PB by 1.2 seconds. Back in Robert Capenow in the Empire race. First visit to Harewood with this car for Robert. Charging up towards the top part of the hill. 1.6 litre booster engine working overtime. He's through the finish with a personal best time, 53.44. Picking up Andy Greenan, who's down in the S's. Andy already up into Country Corner. In the Empire Evo 3. Charging up into Orchard. Bend, just quarry to negotiate. Andy Greenan through quarry and over the finishing line, 52.35, which establishes his PB and takes him into third place in the class. Heading to Farmhouse at the moment, Richard Spedding in the class record holding GWR Raptor. 1.6 Hayabusa. Ooh, kicks up some dust at the final corner. 49.37 the time for Richard Spedding. Goes into the lead of Class J2. On the hill at the moment, heading towards Orchard, is another of the Spedding clan. This is Rob Spedding in the Vector TF93K, a Formula 4 car from South Africa. And, Rob Spedding, the class record holder with this car, with a 59.65. Rob Spedding's time, 62.1, goes into the lead of the class. David Warburton, meanwhile, heading towards the top of the hill. And David Warburton already through the finish. Car number 9 in 49.95 to go into second place in Class J2. Looking out now for Mark Lawrence. Back into Class B with the AMS Mutaya. First time he's competed in this car at Harewood. He's only been driving it with the owner John Pink this season. So Mark into Farmhouse. Mark just wanting to negotiate, and he's through the finish in 68.89. We've just had a spinner down at Willow. That's Jonathan Flesher in the Caterham 7. He has got going again, but he's going quite slowly. So I don't think he was assisted by the marshals, so I think that this will be given as a time, although it will be relatively competitive. Jonathan, class winner yesterday with this Caterham 7 with the Suzuki engine. And motors slowly through the finish line. Gets a time of 84.35. Laura Wardle, who was on the hill, has taken the little shortcut behind the farm buildings to get back to the start line. So we'll see her shortly. Meanwhile, sitting menacingly on the start line, car number 98, Stephen Darley, Subaru Legacy GL. The owner of the car, Damien Bradley, set a new class record of 57.75 on his first run. This is Steve's first run, and yesterday he did a 56.82. Game on. So we're just waiting now for the track to be indicated as clear. We've got the thumbs up at the start line. Waiting for the green light. We're off. Steve Darley off and running. Subaru Legacy GL through Clark's already. Charging down towards the S's. Tidy through the S's, round Chippies, heading up into Country Corner, across the hill to Willow, popping and banging as he goes. Now into Orchard. Very unhurried run by Steve Darley. Could be very quick indeed. Tidy out of Farmhouse. Just Quarry to go. And drives very, very quickly into Quarry. Gets it bobbling onto two wheels for a moment over the finishing line. 57.3. He goes into the lead of the class, and that is now the class record. Robert Penrose on the hill with the Pilbeam. Saw his dad in the car earlier. This is the Pilbeam MP92 carbon fibre tub with this 7.3 litre Chevrolet V8, giving roughly 763.5 brake horsepower. Rounding Farmhouse as well, Nigel Pitt with the RMS 3000M. Robert Penrose through the finish, 65.20. So goes ahead of his dad. Nigel Pitt, meanwhile. Now, we're going to have to look at the computer to get Nigel's time. 57.69. 57.69, that establishes his PB. Rounding Farmhouse at the moment, Mark Label in the Citroen Saxo. He's running in class 26, the Yorkshire Centre members class. And Mark's first run was a 77.08. He's over the finish, improved to 76.65, which becomes his PB. We're still in the Yorkshire Centre club members class with James Harris. RF85 Formula Ford, leading the class off the first runs with a 63.6, and James through the finish 63.59. Well, it's an improvement of 100th of a second, so he extends his lead even though it is minutely. Andrew Colborne, meanwhile, on the hill with the first of our 2 litre single seaters. This is the Van Diemen. The RF02 FX, a 2002 design, came with single-seater and also centre-seat sports Libra bodywork. Andrew Colburn over the finish with a new personal best, 60.38. No, it's not Ian Tucker. This looks like Laura Wardle on her rerun. Car number 797, rounds Farmhouse Bend. Porsche 911 Carrera that she's sharing with Steve Darley. And it's Laura's birthday today, so best wishes for her birthday. She's over the finishing line, 70.26. Heading up into Farmhouse at the moment is Ian Tucker in the OMS 28. 1670cc Hayabusa engine. In all the way from Yuki. Very tight line into the last element of the quarry, and over the finish with a new PB. 60.28 goes into the lead of the class. Into Farmhouse at the moment. Class record holder Jonathan Varley with the GWR Predator. Jonathan, whoa, almost on two wheels through the final element. 52.86 for Jonathan Varley, a new personal best in the Predator, because it's now got this this TKD Y-V8 in it. Lee Griffiths, meanwhile, in the OMS 28 round Farmhouse bend. Lee into and out of quarry over the finish. 50.82, a new class record for Lee Griffiths. Past the commentary box, Einan Price in the Force TA. Now running a 1720cc Busa engine. He's through the finish, 51.40, which is a new PB for Einan. 51.40 puts him second fastest in the class. Ben Stevenson into Farmhouse in the Empire Evo. This runs a 1.3 litre supercharged engine. First visit to Harewood with this car for Ben, and he's through the finish with a 52.32, so that establishes his PB. Now back into the Formula Ford class with a rerun for Sarah Bosworth in the 1985 Van Diemen. Sarah Bosworth, the Demon Barber of Sheffield, charging up towards the top part of the hill. Tidy. Sarah over the finishing line, 64.28. Slots into second place in the class behind Rob Spedding. Looking out now for Jack Cottrell in the Dallara. This is a Formula 3 Dallara from 2005, now with the Cosworth XD V8 in the back. Conversion done by DJ Racing. Jack Cottrell already into quarry, powers round the last element, and over the finish with the new personal best, 51.64. Steve Owen, he's just approaching country corner. This is the OMS 28 with the 2.7 litre RPE V8 engine. We saw his wife Lynn in the car earlier. Steve en route to Farmhouse. Charging up towards the corner. And over the finish, 52.75, a hundredth of a second shy of his PB. Oliver Tomlin, meanwhile, heading to Farmhouse with the Pilbeam MP97 4-litre Judd V8. Oliver, 122 indicated to the speed trap. He's through quarry already, over the finish, 52.20. Looking out for Will Hall, he's down in the S's. Will Hall in the Gould GR59J that he's sharing this year with Matt Ryder. It's the first time he's driven the car at Harewood, so he's about to establish a PB. Will Hall into Orchard. Matt Ryder's time is 48.8, so that's the time that Will be targeting. Will Hall into quarry, sweeps through the corner, over the finish, 48.90, by 10th slower than Matt Ryder. That's a good pairing to watch for the rest of the season. Dave Uren, meanwhile, in the Gould GR55B, heading up into Country Corner. This is the ex-Martin Groves Paul Ransom car. They finished 6th in the British Hillclimb Championship last season. The car has already broken the ladies' hill record today in the hands of Nicola Mingies. So what can Dave Uren do? Can he get close to his personal best? He's already through quarry and over the finish, 49.46 for Dave Uren. Heading into Orchard, nicking one of the flapper posts as he does so, Trevor Willis. Had a big moment yesterday, now fitted, the car is refitted with its original nose cone in what I call shabby chic. And Trevor over the finish, 48.85. 48.85 is second in class at the moment, behind Matt Ryder. Some pushing going on at the start. Coming to the start line now is Scott Moran. Scott in the Graham Wynn Gould GR59J. Off and running. Out of Clark's. Down towards the S's. Fastest time recorded in the class so far is 48.8. That's his target. Already round chippies. Heading up into Country Corner. Across the hill to Willow. Now en route to Orchard. Out of Orchard. Charging up towards Farmhouse. Powering his way up the straight. 125 indicated for the speed trap. Scott Moran into and out of quarry in a flash. 47.66. And 47.66 is a new outright hill record. Into Farmhouse Bend, Alex Summers, DJ Firestorm 2, Cosworth XD Power, heading up towards the top, 125 through the speed trap. 48.11 for Alex Summers, goes into second place in class behind Scott Moran. Those two sharing the lead in the British Hillclimb Championship. On the hill now, Wallace Mingies, reigning Hillclimb champion. He was the outright record holder with a 47.81. Wallace now on charge into out of Orchard, heading for Farmhouse Bend, popping and banging as he goes to the corner, back on the power early, launches the car up the straight, 134 through the speed trap is recorded, and he's over the finishing line, 47.53. Scott Moran held the outright record for about 2 minutes. Wallace Mingies has wrested it back. On the hill at the moment, we have a rerun for, just trying to get back to it, Simon Mackay in the GWR Raptor, the Gen 2 car. This is Simon Mackay's first event at Harewood. Brand new car this year. I think he's done about 3 events in Scotland in the car. Through the finish, 58. Sorry, I'll get this right eventually. 54.88. And that establishes his PB. We're into the historics now with John Mackenzie in the Ford Cortina Mark 1. John down from Lawrence Kirk in Scotland, rounding Farmhouse Bend. This is got a 1.7 litre engine under the bonnet. And John heading up into Quarry, sweeps through the final element over the finish in a 71.98, which is a new personal best for John in that car here at Harewood. Les Proctor into and out of Farmhouse Bend in this very pretty little Austin Healey Sebring Sprite replica. He's a class record holder in Class M, but with a sports racing car. Now it's Joe Mackerel in the Tiger into Farmhouse Bend, while Les Proctor is over the finish, 71.95, so goes into the lead in Class M by 300ths of a second. Joe Mackerel, meanwhile, over the finishing line in 61.77, which is a new PB for Joe and takes him ahead of co-driver Robin Johnson. We're now into the second set of timed runs for the Yorkshire Centre members. And this is Steve Nicol in the Citroën Saxo, recorded a 77.75 on his first ascent. Heading towards Quarry. As he heads up to Quarry, we've got Paul Harris in the Van Diemen RF85, rounding Farmhouse. Time for Steve Nicol, 78.28, so no improvement over his first run time. Paul Harris over the finish, 68.1, so again, no improvement. Nabil Zalan in the Seat Ibiza into Farmhouse Bend, posted a 74.48 on his first run. Slowly chipping away at his personal best all last season. And over the finish, 74.02, so that's 4/10 quicker than he was earlier. Shane Jowett into Farmhouse with the Honda Civic. Had issues on his first time run, so this is bound to be way, way better than a 91.97. Shane round Quarry through the finish in 68.53. Looking out for Peter Vincent in the Vauxhall VX220. Peter Vincent's first run time 65.73. Peter going very well in this VX220 2.2 litre supercharged engine. Peter doesn't grab the brakes as he was to the final elements of Quarry, and it's a 65.22, which is half a second quicker than he was earlier. On the start line at the moment, we have Jim Johnstone in the Triumph TR6. Got the Harewood people just, I think we've got maybe one of the banners is flapping around a bit, so that's being attended to. So there'll be a slight delay while that happens. Red flags are out. And a little post there for not for the purists. It's crazy to think that the hill record of 49 seconds only a few years back, and now they've knocked another 2 seconds off that. Well, it's true. Big chunks coming off records up and down the country. Good to see Scott getting more on the pace with the GR59 lately, though. That's from JSR. All these posts coming through on the live feed. Right, the banners seem to have been tidied up. The red flag is now coming in. So red flags will go in all down the hill, all the way back to the start line. Meanwhile, down at the start, Jim Johnston has closed the door on the TR6. Right, so Jim Johnston on track at the moment through Country Corner. Posted a 68.51 on his first run. Heading up into Orchard. Here's Orchard, but it doesn't seem to be going that quickly. I think he's got maybe fuel feed issues that he had earlier. He's going very slowly through Farmhouse. Meanwhile, charging up behind him is Steve Thompson in the class-leading 488 GTB Ferrari. Steve did a 64.53. Jim Johnston, meanwhile, over the finish eventually, 85.32. So major issues there for Jim again, possibly with the electronics. Steve Thompson, meanwhile, slightly slower than he was earlier, 65.24. That left the door open for David Snelson to slip through. Martin Jones, meanwhile, heading up towards Farmhouse Bend at 360. Martin heads up into Quarry, and we've got Paul Booth into Farmhouse. Martin Jones through the finish, slightly slower than earlier, 80.79. Paul Booth, the charge is already into Quarry, and out of the corner, stops the clocks, 70.95, handy improvement there for Paul Booth. Out of Orchard at the moment, Peter Rogerson in the 360 Modena F1. Posted an 80.2 on his first run. He's already into Quarry, round the final element and over the finish, 77.73. For Peter Rogerson, nice improvement over that first run time. Looking out now for the 360 Spider of Mark Wimberley. 70.48 for Mark on his first run. He's into Farmhouse. Marching up towards the top of the hill. Wimberley round Quarry over the finish. Slightly slower than earlier, 70.96. Pulling Goodwin into out to Orchard. 3:28. Pauling's first run time 72.89. To negotiate, and through the finish 74.61, quite a bit slower than earlier. Brian Jackson out of Farmhouse, 308 GTB. His first run was a 71.74. This is going to be a little bit slower, 73.65 for Brian Jackson. John Swift in the 355 Berlinetta into Farmhouse. 75 seconds dead on his first run for John. Into Quarry. Around the final element and across the line, 75.69. So no improvement. John Kennedy, that's a new PB on his first run in the 360, 67.57. Improve again. Good late braking, kicking up the dust as he went round the apex. No, he can't. 68.2. No improvement for John Kennedy. David Snelson heading up towards Orchard. Championship leader at the moment going into this weekend. His first run was a 66.26. He needs to better 64.53. David Snelson on the way into Quarry through the second element. It is an improvement, 66.20, but not enough. Leaves him in second place in the class. Back to the class 26 for the Yorkshire Centre members, Richard Jones and the Austin Sebring Sprite. This car doing double duty today, running in two different classes. Richard Jones' first run was a 69.69, and he's now over the finish, 70.79. So again, over a second slower on this run. Right, we're about to get into our first top 12 of the day, and I'll give you the running order. And first on the hill is 7:09, which I think, if memory serves me right, should be, I'm looking desperately for 7:09, Alan Warburton, who qualified with a 49.95. Then number 8, Will Hall. And Will qualified with a 48.9. Then number 10, Einan Price. And Einan qualified with a 51.4. The reason he's ahead of the other two is their shared cars, so they go first. Then 142. 142 is Lee Griffiths. Lee qualified on a 50.82. Then we have number 9, David Warburton. And David qualified on a 49.95. Then number 6, Dave Uren, qualified on a 49.46. 137. Richard Spedding. And Richard qualified on a 49.37. Then it's number 5, Trevor Willis, qualified on a 48.85. 7:08, Matt Ryder, qualified on a 48.80. Then number 2, Alex Summers, qualified on a 48.11. Then number 4, Scott Moran, qualified on a 47.66, which at the time was a new outright course record. And fastest qualifier, Wallace Menges, and Wallace's qualifying time, which is the new hill record, 47.53. So that's our top 10. That's the sequence they'll be coming up the hill. And the cars already, a lot of them, well, certainly the first 2 will be down at the start line already, waiting to go. Alan Warburton will be the first to come to the start line. Alan Warburton now moving forward to the start. Of course, we run the top 12, 1 car on the hill at a time. So Alan Warburton will be the centre of attention on the start line. Away. 64 foot, 2.4 seconds. Already through Clark's. On the drop down into the S's, 9.89 on S approach. Rounding chippies. Heading up towards Country Corner, 21.02. Country approach. Over towards Willow. Now heading up towards Orchard. Into the next time split, which is 31.74. Now heading towards Farmhouse. The split here is on the exit of the corner. Warburton round the corner through the split in 43.71. Heading for the finish, and through the finish in a 51.84. So quite a bit slower than he was earlier in his qualifying, which was a 49.95. That's our first runner. Next to the line will be number 8, Will Hall, the Gould GR59J, qualified on a 48.9. So Will starting to roll forward. On to the start. Lined up. Car's now lined up, so we'll be going through his start procedure. Slight hesitation on the start line. Off and running 2.26 for the launch through Clark's. Heading down towards the S's. 9.46, so he's up at the split on Alan Warburton. Heading round Chippies. On the approach to Country Corner. Through Country Corner 20.15, so again still ahead of Alan Warburton. Heading up towards Orchard. Through the split Orchard 30.15, 1.6 seconds up at that point. Through Farmhouse Bend, splits on the exit, 41.5, so over 2 seconds up at that point. Will Hall over the finish already, 48.94, 400th slower than he was in qualifying. Those are our two shared cars. The next car we should see is number 10, Einan Price, and Einan is already moving forward. Einan qualified on a 51.40. Einan Price, the Welshman, ex-rally driver. Occasionally his rally driving experiences show through. Away, start, heading towards Clark's, 2.13 for the launch, quickest so far. Charging down towards the S's, 9.38 on S approach, so he's ahead at that point. Round Chippies, heading up towards Country. Through the split of Country at 20.4, he's dropped behind Will Hall at that point. Now through Willow, heading up towards Orchard. Through the split of Orchard, 31.02. Half a second down on Will Hall into Farmhouse Bend. Remember the splits on the exit. Einan out of the corner, 42.89. He's about halfway between Alan Warburton and Will Hall at that point. And over the finishing line, 51.12. So quicker than he qualified, and he slots into second place at the moment. Heading to the line, Lee Griffiths in the OMS 28, qualified on a 50.82. This is the overboard Hayabusa, just like Einan Price's, but with a little bit less CCs. And Lee Griffiths is away from the line, 2.23 for the launch. So quicker than Will Hall, down towards the S's. 9.4, so again he's up on Will Hall at that point. Einan Price the fastest so far to the S's, heading up into Country Corner, 20.25, so slower than Will Hall. The power counting there on the exit of Chippies. Lee heading towards Orchard, 31 seconds dead at the split, so only just ahead of Einan Price. Lee Griffiths into Farmhouse Bend. Hours round Farmhouse, out of the corner, 43.12, so only just ahead of Alan Warburton, and a little bit of smoke from the exhaust as it goes round Quarry, over the finish, 51.25, slots in between Alan Warburton and Einan Price. So at the moment, Einan Price and Will Hall, if all the other competitors finish, will be getting 1 and 2 points, assuming the other people beat them. And the people to miss out at the moment look like Alan Warburton and Lee Griffiths. So we're waiting for the next car to the line, which is David Warburton, son of Alan. David qualified, I think I might have got Alan Warburton's qualifying time wrong. Let me just double check that. Yes, it was a 51.4. David Warburton off and running through Clark's 2.17 for the launch, so just fractionally slower than Einem Price. 9.41 down into the S's, so fractionally slower than Lee Griffiths at that point. David now charging up to country corner, 19.79, the quickest to country so far. Out of Willow, up towards Orchard, 30.08, behind Einem Price at that point, into Farmhouse Bend, tidy through Farmhouse, 41.67, still behind Will Hall at that point, and over the finishing line in 49.48, slots into second behind Will Hall. Next to the line, Dave Uren in the Gould GR55B, qualified on a 49.46. Tom Hugh watching a brief on his charges. Dave Uren is away. First for 2.3. Slower than Alan Warburton, down towards the S's, it's 9.2, the fastest to the S's so far for Dave Uren. Out of Chippies, heading up towards country corner, 20.1, so second quickest to country behind David Warburton, but now the power cuts in as he charges up towards Orchard, 30.17, still behind David Warburton at that point. Through the farm buildings, round Farmhouse Bend, exiting Farmhouse. We haven't got the split in the Farmhouse, unfortunately, and he's over the finish in 49.2. So goes into second place behind David Warburton, sorry, ahead of David Warburton, but behind Will Hall. And I think we might have the split come up for Dave Uren. 41.66 on the exit of Farmhouse when he was just ahead of David Warburton at that point. So Richard Spedding on the start line. The GWR Raptor 2, qualified on a 49.37. He's off and running. Heading towards Clark's, 2.05 for the launch, the fastest so far. This will be quick down to the S's as well. 8.89, first sub 9 seconds we've seen to that point. Rounding Chippies up towards country corner. I'm expecting a 19, it's a 19.43, quickest again. So Richard Spedding holds the lead. Now the power will be against him. Charging up towards Orchard. 29.88, he's still in the lead. Into Farmhouse Bend. This little GW Raptor is flying up the hill. Richard Spedding, 41.29 on the exit of Farmhouse, still in the lead. What can he do through Quarry on three wheels over the finishing line? 49.09, 49.01. 49.01 puts him in second place behind Will Hall. So that's a cracking run from Richard Spedding to get ahead of Dave Uren. To the line now, Trevor Willis. Trevor qualified at a 48.85 with the OMS 28, sporting its reprofiled and repurposed nose cone. Trevor about to set off. It's away towards Clark's. 2.1 for the launch. Ahead of Einem Price at that point, but behind Richard Spedding. 8.85, so the fastest down into the S's for Trevor. Out of Chippies, 19.43, so he equals Richard Spedding at country. Now charging up through Willow, heading towards Orchard. The Orchard split 29.95, so he's behind Richard Spedding at that point. Into Farmhouse, Exeter Farmhouse, 41.4. So ahead of Will Hall. What can he do at the finish? And it's a 48.63, so into the lead for Trevor Willis. So at the moment, Trevor Willis on 48.63 leads, with Will Hall second, 48.94, and in third place on 49.01, Richard Spedding. So the line now, Matt Ryder in the Gould GR59J. Matt qualified on 48.80. It's away. 2.1 for the launch, so matches Trevor Willis. Down into the S's. 8.89, fractionally, in fact, exactly the same as Richard Spedding at that point. Out of Chippies, heading towards Country Corner, 19.34. At that split, that's the quickest so far. Heading towards Orchard, split of Orchard 29.15. Up on the clock again. Into Farmhouse Bend. Out of Farmhouse Bend, 40.38. Quickest by far. Just Quarry to negotiate, 47.39. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new outright hill record. And we've still got the 3 fastest qualifiers to go. Where's this going to end? Can we get into the 46s? So on the start line, Alex Summers qualified in a 48.11. He's already off and running for the DJ Firestorm. 1.98 for the launch, quickest so far. Charging down towards the S's, 8.73. He's up on the clock again. Alex Summers on a mission. Rounds Chippies, heading up towards Country Corner, looking for the split there. 18.99. Quickest by far. Out of Willow, en route to Orchard. Approaching Orchard, 29.01. 1.14 up at Orchard. It's going to be at Farmhouse. 40.16, so ahead of Matt Ryder. Just Quarry to go. With a finish at Quarry. 47.62 goes into second place. So we now have just 2 runners to go. Next up should be Scott Moran, the GR59J. He's come into the line, qualified on a 47.66. Would only be good enough for third place. So Scott on the start line. And away he goes. Scott Moran off and running. 2.07 for the launch. Already heading down into the S's. 8.76 at that point. Just fractionally behind Alex Summers. Around Chippies. Heading up towards Country Corner. 19.12. Over a tenth behind Alex at that point. Heading up towards Orchard. 28.84. That's the quickest so far to Orchard. Into Farmhouse Bend. Out of Farmhouse. 40.02, the quickest to that point, just quarry to go. He's through the finish. 47.05. A new outright hill record. I did suggest we could get into the 46s. So, sitting on the start line, fastest qualifier, Wallace Mingies, qualified on a 47.53. Time to beat, 47.05. Tom New watching on, holding his head, wondering if it's possible. Wallace about to launch, shuts the visor and away he goes. Away from the start line, 2.16 for the launch. Now on the power, down into the S's, 8.91. S approach, rounds chippies, looking for an 18. The next split, it's a 19.06, second quickest at that point. Now the power cuts in as he comes out of Willow, charging up towards Orchard. 28.8, the fastest to Orchard so far. Into Farmhouse Bend. And past the camera, charging up towards the top of the hill. 39.8 at Farmhouse exit. Over the finish, 47 seconds exactly. Our third hill record in the runoff. And Wallace Mengies grabs back the outright hill record at Harewood on the last run of our first top 12. Can we get into the 46s? Only time will tell. So, in that fantastic runoff, fastest on 47 seconds dead, Wallace Mengies in first place. Second, Scott Moran, 47.05. Third, Matt Ryder, 47.39. Fourth, Alex Summers, 47.62. Then it's 48.63 for Trevor Willis in fifth. 48.94 sixth for Will Hall. 49.01 seventh for Richard Spedding. 49.2 eighth for Dave Uren. 49.48 ninth for David Warburton. And in 10th place, picking up the last point, Einam Price 51.12. With Lee Griffiths 51.25 and Alan Warburton 51.84 failing to score. So that's our first runoff in the bag. I've got a post here from Blonde Nutter watching Harewood Hillclimb on HillClimb.TV. I'm trying to quickly update the personal best records for the drivers in that runoff because most of them set PBs. So where was I up to? Dave Uren. No. Richard Spedding. Car's already starting to head down the hill. I've just about recovered from that run-off. It was incredible. And we're about to set off on our second set of timed runs. And just wondering where this record breaking will end. So we have a car sitting on the start line. That'll be Richard Weaver. He's off and running in the LMS Hornet. First run 60.81. This little 1 litre single seater. Richard neat and tidy through the bottom part of the hill, heading up towards Country Corner. Through Country Corner. En route to Orchard. 2 rounds Orchard, Robin Wood, he's dropping down towards the S's. Richard Weaver through Farmhouse. Coming out of Farmhouse Bend. Just a run up to Quarry. Quarry's first element, then the second, over the finish in 60.91. No improvement for Richard Weaver. Pick up Robin Wood going into Farmhouse Bend. Force PT had issues on his first run, only posted a 62.81. Robin charging up into the final corner, round the corner, over the finish, 56.33. Great recovery. A little bit shy of his PB, but a good drive nonetheless. Looking out for Richard Summers, he's out of Orchard, heading towards Farmhouse. 54.04 on his first run to lead the 1100cc class. Richard Summers into Quarry, through the finish. And slightly slower, 54.38 for Richard Summers. Wondering if that might have left the door open for David Tatum to slip through. Meanwhile, Caroline Ryder, the first of our Formula Fords, is on the hill. She'll be elated at her son Matt's performance in the runoff. Caroline already into Orchard. Now into Farmhouse Bend. First run time 65.95. Right to first element of Quarry, now to the final element. Over the finish, good improvement, 64.73 for Caroline Ryder. Next on the hill we pick up Stuart Sugden coming out of Country Corner in the GWR Raptor. He's sharing this car with Les Much. 53.14 on the first run. Route to Farmhouse Bend. Little Raptors, more and more coming out of Graham White's workshop up in Aberdeenshire. Stuart Sugden sweeps through the final elements of Quarry for a 53.15, just 1/100th slower, so that's very, very consistent hill climbing from Stuart Sugden. And we don't have anybody on the hill. It's all gone quiet, a bit of an anti-climax after that run-off. To give you some idea of how things have progressed in hill climbing, the first event on the long course, sorry, the first British Hillclimb event on the long course was won by Roy Lane in a 53.44, which is absolutely staggering. That was in 1992. Great coverage from the Harewood team, an outright hill record ×3. Good luck to Pirelli Ferrari Hillclimb Championship. Great runs by Steve Thompson and John Swift from Richard Priest. Watching the awesome racing in the back garden with a nice cold beer. That's Biggs Bunny. Yeah, well, I wish I had a nice cold beer in the commentary box. It's like a sweat box in here. Anyone live in that farmhouse? Or is there anyone live in the farmhouse? That must be anyone live in the farmhouse. Yes, they do. The conditions looking near perfect just now. I think they are, although it is getting a lot hotter, I've noticed. So that might end up with maybe not quite as quick a times in the second runoff. Pretty ideal in that first one. On the start line, we have the low 3 for Adam Greenan. Adam's first run was a 52.34. He's down in the S's at the moment, looping round chippies. Across to Willow. That's the little elbow for Orchard. Adam Greenan on a charge. 52.34 on that first run. Harrowing up the straight. 103 recorded through the speed trap for Adam. He's already into the last element of Quarry and over the finishing line. Slightly slower, 52.73. Wait for the start line. Alan Warburton, you saw in that first runoff. He qualified on a 51.4. How close can he get to that first qualifying time? Alan Warburton already up into country corner. Gould GR59. He shares with son David. Warburton really heading towards Farmhouse. Powering out of Farmhouse Bend. Heading towards Quarry. Through the final element and over the finish, 51.94. No improvement for Alan Warburton. Will that get him in the second runoff? Meanwhile, we pick up Jonathan Langmead heading up towards Orchard. We're back into Class A1. Jonathan in the Lotus Elise 135R. And he's in third place in the class with a 66.35. Sounds a little bit on the flat side to me as he heads up towards Quarry. Jonathan Langmead over the finish, 65.94. Is this an improvement? So that becomes his PB for his next visit. James Hudson, meanwhile, in the Volkswagen Golf, heads towards Farmhouse. First run time was a 67.16. James Hudson disappears to Quarry through the second element and over the finishing line improves to 66.66. Looking out now for Robert Marwood, who leads the class, and I owe him an apology. He actually broke the class record on his first run with a 64.82. So Robert Marwood into Farmhouse Bend with the class record, 64.82 from that first run. Clock ticking down over the finish in 64.52. So that's another class record for Robert Harewood. And it's also a new personal best, better than the time he's done in a club meeting. David Leach now into Farmhouse Bend, last runner in Class A1. If he can repeat his PB, he'll go into the lead of the class and set a new class record. He's through the final corner and it's a 64.35. The new class record holder, David Leach, with a new personal best time. Great run there from David. Phil James, meanwhile, heading into Farmhouse Bend in the Porsche Cayman. Leading Class A2 with a 66.55. Into Quarry. Dab of the brakes just before the final element and over the finish. Improved to 66.29. Peter Herbert rounding Orchard is the next into Farmhouse. Bit of smoke there as he went into the corner. Porsche heading up Quarry Straight. Time to beat 66.29. Don't think he's going to do it. He's over the finish. Slightly slower than on his first run, 68.09. No improvement for Peter Herbert. John Pick, first of the runners in Class B, rounding Farmhouse Bend, 66.63 on his first run. So John Pick into Quarry, round the second element, dab of the brakes. Kicks up the dust on the apex and over the finish line, 66.8, slightly slower than his first run. Robbie Birrell into Farmhouse Bend, 62.29 on his first run, so lying in second place in the class. And Robbie charging up to the top of the hill in the Exige. Dab of the brakes as he goes to the final element. And time for Robbie Birrell. Hasn't come up yet. 61.61 for Robbie Birrell, a new personal best, and takes the lead in the class. So sitting on the start line, we have one of the flashers. Which one is it? It's been accelerated away. We'll pick up his number, hopefully. Oh, there he goes. It's Dylan on track. Dylan was leading the class with a 61.85. He's already dropping down into the S's. Ooh, a little bit wayward there in the middle S. Back end sort of stepped out. He's now out of Chippies, heading up into Country Corner. Heading up now towards Orchard. He's about half a second down on Robbie Birrell at that point. So what can Dylan Fletcher do? Out of Farmhouse Bend. A little bit squirrely on the exit as well. Back end wanted to pass him. Held it nicely. On the way into Quarry. Sweeps round Quarry in one great huge semicircle and over the finish. 62.43, slower than earlier. So that leaves him in second place in the class. Heading into Mount of Orchard at the moment, Eric Moray had a problem on his first run. The car seems to be going a lot better this time, so what can the little Hillman in do? Heading up to the final corner. Very, very quick into Quarry. Sweeps around the corner, over the finishing line. 66.06. This is an improvement. Still a little bit away from his PB. Heading into Orchard at the moment, Jeff Twenlow in the Subaru Impreza. Jeff to Farmhouse. The Impreza chirruping as it goes. 2.5 litre turbocharged engine. 70.31 on his first run for Jeff. And he's over the finish, improves to 68.89. Looking out now for Hayden Spedding in the E-Type Jack. He's out of Orchard already, heading up towards Farmhouse. Out to Farmhouse Bend on the run to Quarry. And Hayden Spedding over the finish, 67.03, slower than earlier. Roger Moran now en route to Farmhouse. A little Skoda Fabia RS rally car was in is in Roger's terms a delight to drive. It's like driving on rails, he said. And he's through the finish in 60.11, slightly slower than earlier. Into Orchard at the moment, Jonathan Williamson in the 911 Carrera. Jonathan's first run was a 65.39. Jonathan being tardy through the top part of the hill. Over the finish, improves to 65.06. To pick up Damien Bradley in the Legacy. Held the class record for a short while until co-driver Stephen Darley snatched it out of his hands. And Damien seems to be going very, very slowly out of Farmhouse. That doesn't look at all good. Almost as if the fire's gone out, so maybe a turbo failure or maybe something in the electronics, but Damien Bradley eventually staggers over the finish in 75.4. Heading into Quarry at the moment. Bob Bellaby in the Silver Riot, and he's through the finish, improves to 60.49 but remains in second place in the class. Simon Jenks meanwhile already has the class win in his back pocket with his first run 58.46, but he wasn't to know whether or not Bob Bellaby would beat that time. So Simon charging up to the top. He's through the finish 57.99. It is an improvement over his first run. Heading up into Orchard at the moment. We have Alan MacDonald. 2.4 litre turbocharged Mini Evo Mitsubishi. Four-wheel drive, currently lying in second place in class behind Simon Bainbridge. Alan MacDonald over the finish, 59.83, no improvement. Simon Bainbridge rumbling his way through the farm buildings in the big SBR Chrono V8. That's wonderful as it rumbles its way up Quarry Straight, appears at the top of the hill in a cloud of dust, and over the finish 56.62, fractionally slower than he was earlier, but still leads the class by a convincing amount. On the hill now, picking up, going into Country Corner, Bob Penrose in the Pilbeam MP92, 7.3 litre Schmidt Chevrolet V8. Bob's first run time 67.59. New car for Bob and his son Robert this year. Way up the straight. Bob Penrose rounding Quarry over the finish, improves to 66.28. Still not as quick as his son Robert was on the first run. On the hill at the moment, Lynn Owen. So we're into the dual-driven big single-seaters. Lynn in the OMS 28 RPE V8. Did a 58.98 on her first run. Lynn charging up towards Farmhouse. Into Quarry, very stable, and over the finishing line in 57.59. Good improvement there for Lynn Owen. Sandra Tomlin, meanwhile, heading into Farmhouse Bend. Pilbeam MP97 4-litre jump V8 engine. Sandra rounds Quarry over the finish, improves to 57.01. Handy improvement for Sandra. On the start line at the moment, Matt Ryder, who set that new hill record, only to see it beaten twice before the end of the runoff. Matt on the start and away. So Matt Ryder dropping down into the Estes. Through the Estes into Chippies. Now heading towards Country Corner. Through Country. And Willow. Up towards Orchard, through Orchard, round Farmhouse Bend. Ryder just Quarry to negotiate. Round Quarry in a blink of an eye, 47.96. That was a lot quicker than he was on his qualifying run, so that's going to qualify him well up the order. 47.96 on the start line at the moment. Number 706, Nicola Minguez in the Gould GR55B. 3.5-litre Nicholson McLaren V8. Nicola broke the ladies' hill record on her first time run with a 52.98. Now across the hill into and out of Willow. Powering up through the farm buildings, rounding Farmhouse Bend. Quarry to negotiate. Safely through the last element and over the finish, 52.03. So that lowers the ladies' record for the second time today from Nicola Minguez. 52.03. Nobody down at the start. I think we've still got at least one. In fact, we've got two over 2-litre shared cars to go. First to the line is Graham Wynn. The Gould GR59J. He shares with Scott Moran. It's the loud pedal, making way through Clark's, goes very deep into the corner, just avoids going into the Recticel, down into the S's, Chippies, First run was a 52.31 for Graham. Heading up towards Orchard. Orchard. Run now to Farmhouse. Charging up the straight. Then it indicated the speed trap. And over the finish, 52.95. No improvement for Graham Wynn. And I don't think that's going to get him in the runoff. Already running Lindsay Summers in the DJ Firestorm. His first run was a 59.01. Now heading up towards Orchard, into Farmhouse. Someone just worried to negotiate. Over the finish, a 55.92 for Lindsay Summers. Great improvement over her first run and a new personal best time. Currently on the hill we have Martin Turner. Empire Evo. And, well, it's reluctantly only gone a little bit further than it did on its first run. Oh, he's now got it back into a gear. He actually went arrowing off into the gravel trap on his first time run. All seemed to, it might have been a false neutral that they seemed to get as he came out of Farmhouse. Anyway, he's eventually over the finish with a 68.93. Nigel Pitt, meanwhile, was already out of Farmhouse in his OMS 3000M, a new car for this year. The 57.69 on his first run. He's up through Quarry and over the finish, slightly slower with a 58.31 for Nigel Pitt. Picking up Gavin McLaren. Gavin McLaren into and out of Orchard in the OMS 2000M. Gavin on the run up Quarry Straight, did a 64.49 on his first run. And over the finish in the 65.03. No improvement for Gavin McLaren. Tom Weaver, meanwhile, into Farmhouse Bend, the OMS Hornet. First run was a 55.28. That, I think, was good enough for fourth in the class. No, fifth in the class. And Tom Weaver over the finish. And I haven't got a time come up on the computer as yet. Seems to have skipped past Richard Walker on the scoreboard. Oh, he's suddenly got 55.44. No improvement then for Tom Weaver. Richard Walker, meanwhile, rounding Farmhouse Bend in the OMS CFO4. 58.73 on his first run. Into out of Quarry, over the finish, improves to 56.7. 2 seconds quicker. Richard Walker. Anthony Wood now on the hill with the Force PT. Heading up into Country Corner. Did a 55.20 on his first run, which is a new PB. Anthony into and out of Orchard, up to Farmhouse Bend. To Farmhouse. Just the run round Quarry. Goes very wide on the exit. 55.16 for Anthony Wood, which is a new PB. Debbie Summers now heading out of Orchard towards Farmhouse. Sweeps round Farmhouse Bend in the DJ Firehawk. 54.78 on her first run. Debbie through the finish, 53.71. Not only better than her first run, a new personal best, and goes into the lead of the class. David Tatum won't know that he's just been beaten. He did a 54.75. He's rounding Farmhouse now. He needs to get very, very close to his personal best if he's going to take the class win. David Tatum smokes his way around the final corner, 53.92. He improves, but only closing the gap to Debbie Summers, who takes the class win. So they're all changed on that last run. We're into the Formula Fords now. David Finley out of Orchard in the 1986 Reynard Formula Ford. Class a healthy entry today. And it's one of those classes that you see come and go. Some years you get 1 or 2 entries, and we've got quite a few today. David Finley through the finish, 65.36, nice improvement, becomes his new PB. Alex Coles heading towards Orchard, had a problem in practice, and he seems to have had a problem coming out of Orchard that time. I'm wondering if he's missed a gear, because it suddenly slowed dramatically. Now back underway, heading up towards the top part of the hill. Alex Coles to improve on his first run, which I think is more or less a given, and he does with a 64.45, which takes him ahead of co-driver Carolyn Ryder. Sarah Bosworth, meanwhile, heading up towards the top of the hill. Still lying in second place with her 64.28 from the first run. And over the finish with a new personal best, 63.73 for Sarah Bosworth. However, that means that Rob Spedding, who is speeding into Orchard with the Vector, is going to be the class winner. His first run, 62.1, is good enough to take the win. But he won't know because he's free and clear, heading up towards the top of the hill. Rob Spedding into out of Orchard, over the finishing line, 61.97, so extends his lead. Heading out of Farmhouse at the moment, we have Simon Mackay in the second generation GWR Raptor. He's over the finish in a flash with a new personal best, 52.94. So he's certainly getting to grips with Harewood on his first visit. He's being chased up the hill by another of the Scots, Les Much, in his earlier GWR Raptor. Leslie's first run was a 52.8. Heading up now to Farmhouse. Around Farmhouse Bend. He wrapped up in the gravel there earlier today. No such problems on this run. Heading up to the finish. Into the last element of Quarry and over the finish line, slower than earlier with a 53.05 for Les Much. Looking out now for Darren Gumbley, he's into and out of Orchard. Darren set a new PB on his first run with a 52.02. He's been having electrical issues over the weekend, but seemed to get it all sorted out on that first run. Can he improve on 52.02? He's into the last element, he does with a 51.75. So great run there from Darren Gumbley, new PB, and that might just get him into the runoff. Rob Capper, meanwhile, out of Orchard into Farmhouse, Empire Wraith. Established his personal best with a 53.44 on his first run. Rob Capper over the finish, 53.47, so fractionally slower than earlier. Looking out now for Andy Greenan, Empire Evo 3. And his first run was a 52.35. He's heading up into the final corner, round quarry, over the finish, 51.52. So that puts him ahead of Darren Gumbley into third place in the class. Richard Spedding now leading the class with a 49.37 from his first run, and he seems to have slowed dramatically coming out of Orchard, and that looks like it's curtains, unfortunately, for Richard Spedding. The car slowly coming to a halt just before Farmhouse. So having done so well to qualify and to pick up points, oh, it's picking up again. We have a red flag out because obviously cars have will catch this slow-moving vehicle. We've got marshals out at the top of the hill, so I'm just wondering whether or not Richard Spedding got a flag. So we'll have to see whether or not that comes up as a red flag. We do have a time for him of 54.79. So that, I think, may be it for Richard Spedding. So 54.79 for Richard, obviously no improvement, and I don't think that's going to qualify him for the run. I'm pretty sure it won't. Meanwhile, we have David Warburton sitting patiently on the start line. I did see the marshals at the top of the hill heading off towards the finish and beyond. From Mac 65, Debbie, tidy run. Wow. Yeah, it was a tidy run. So very, very quick. And talk about snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. It's a perfect example. Just waiting for the red flags to be cleared, and it looks like that might be about to happen. Marshals have given the thumbs up to David Warburton, who's sitting patiently on the start line. Set a new personal best in qualifying, then improved on it in the runoff with a 49.48. Now that has been changed for Richard Spedding to red flag. So that 54.79 is scrubbed, so he'll get a rerun. Meanwhile, David Warburton waiting patiently on the start line. gets the thumbs up again from the start line crew. Build up and away he goes. So qualified for the first run for the 49.95, which became his personal best. He improved on that with a 49.48. He's now down in the S's. What can he do on this qualifying run? David Warburton heading up into out of country through Willow. Up towards Orchard, out of Orchard, heading to Farmhouse, through Farmhouse Bend, now the run to the finish, 49.95, over the finishing line, 50.55, so no improvement overall, but I think that 50.55 might just get him in. We're back down the classes again for the co-driven AMS Mutaya with second driver Mark Lawrence at the wheel. Mark's first run was a 68.89. He's already heading into Farmhouse. Charging up towards the top of the hill. Rounding Quarry and over the finish. Great improvement there to 66.75. Closes to within 0.1 owner of the car. We now have the final runner in Class B, Jonathan Flesher. Had issues on his first run, only managed to post an 84.35. Time to beat Robbie Birrell's 61.61 to take the lead of the class. What can Jonathan do? Over the finish, it's a 63.35. And that, I think, is only good enough for third place. Meanwhile, Laura Wardle into and out of Orchard, heading towards Farmhouse Bend. Porsche 911 Carrera, 70.26 on her first run. Laura, celebrating her birthday today, is over the finish in 69.93, handy improvement. Heading towards Farmhouse at the moment, Robin Johnson in the Tiga. Robin did a 64.05 on the first run. Running in Class N for the historic racing cars. And he's over the finish with a 64.61. No improvement over that first run time. Back to Sports Libras and Robert Penrose in the Pilbeam MP92. Currently lying in third place in class with a 65.2. Robert Penrose is being chased up the hill by Steve Darley, but he seems to have had the same issue that Damien Bradley had. He got through the first corner and went very, very slowly. So Robert Penrose making his way up the hill in the big Pilbeam Chevrolet, over the finish, slightly slower than earlier, 66.63. Meanwhile, Steve Darley is touring up the hill, and Mark Laban has been set off behind him. Steve Darley just chugging along at the moment. So whatever the problem Damien Bradley had on his second run, it looks like the Gremlins have struck again with Steve Darley. But he still has the class, he's grabbed the class record back off his co-driver Damien Bradley. with a 57.3 on his first run. So Steve Darley slowly getting towards the top of the hill. Mark Leyburn, the first of the runners in the Yorkshire Centre class, into Farmhouse Bend. Stephen Darley eventually gets to the finish, 81.95, and unsurprisingly, it just isn't quick enough to beat his first run time. So Mark Leyburn into an out of country corner. Over the finish, 78.02, no improvement over his previous run times. Out of Farmhouse at the moment, we have James Harris. The Yorkshire Centre members getting 3 times runs this afternoon. Well, in fact, they got one before lunch. James Harris over the finish, 63.34. That's his best time today. Looking out for the first of our 2-litre single-seaters, Andrew Colborne. Andrew in the Van Diemen did a 60.38. There's a new PB on his first run. He's rounding the final corner slightly slower, 61.82 for Andrew Colborne. Ian Tucker on the hill with the OMS 28, 1670cc Hayabusa engine. Sets a new personal best, 60.28 on his first run. Ian into Farmhouse. Just quarry to negotiate. Sweeping round quarry is going to be a little bit slower, 60.62 for Ian Tucker. Jonathan Varley next on the hill. Had his class record snatched off him by Lee Griffiths. Through Orchard, heading to Farmhouse. 52.8 on his first run. Varley round quarry over the finish, slightly slower, 53.41 for Jonathan Varley, no improvement. Sitting on the start line is Lee Griffiths, set that new class record for K1 with a 50.82 on his first class run, and didn't improve on it in the runoff. What can he do in qualifying now? Into country corner, across to Willow. Heading up towards Orchard. Out of Orchard. Into Farmhouse. Good late apex as he came out the corner. Charging up towards the top part of the hill. Improve on that first run time. He's over the finish. He does increase or decreases the class record to 50.76. So a great run there from Lee Griffiths. I think that probably ensures he'll get into the runoff. What can Einem Price do? Einem did a 51.4 on his first timed run. Got into the runoff with that. Charging up towards the top of the hill. Through quarry, into the finish. 51.03, and that is a new personal best for Einem Price, beats the time he set in the runoff. Ben Stevenson into and out of Orchard in the Evo 2 Empire. 1300 supercharged engine in the back of the Empire. 52.32 on his first run. Ben into and out of quarry. 52.95, no improvement for Ben Stevenson. Jack Cottrell, meanwhile, heading up towards Orchard in the Dallara, the 2005 Formula 3 tub, now with a Cosworth XD V8 in the back, with a 51.64 on his first run. Jack heading up to quarry and over the finish in 51.15. That may well get him into the runoff. Steve Owen, meanwhile, heading up towards Orchard in the Works OMS 28. 2.7 litre RPE V8 engine in the back. 52.75. First time run to be just 1/100th of a second shy of his PB. So Steve Owen into the final corners, over the line, 52.92. No improvement for Steve Owen. Oliver Tomlin into Orchard, Kobe MP97. First time run 52.2. Oliver not registered for the Hillclimb Championship. Sweeps through the final corner in a 51.92. That's his best time today. Away from the start line, Will Hall, GR59J. Out of Clark's, sparking his way down towards the S's. Through the S's, into Chippies. Heading up into Country Corner. Will Hall qualified with a 48.9. Didn't improve on that time in the runoff. And, sat-nav failure. Went straight on at Orchard. So that, unfortunately, is going to be a fail for Will Hall. We're getting a replay of it. And, oh, yes, he just lost the back end as he came through that little elbow before the corner, which pitched him to the right. The back end went to the right, and he straightened it up and straight into the gravel trap. But I just think it's the front left wheel that's gone into the gravel trap, so it's not too much of a problem. It should be relatively easy to tidy it up, but the question is, can he fire the engine back up and drive it to the top of the hill when they've got rid of all the gravel? So there'll be a delay. I don't think we had any other cars on the hill at the time. No, we didn't.
You still get a happy meal in McDonald's when you got it. My eldest grandson, he's 9 now, he'll know happy meal now. He's on his big, and he eats it. Like taller, he eats it.
Back from the Zoom photograph, image through from Orchard. Doesn't seem to be much in the way of gravel on that front left tyre, but there's a lot of dust being picked up, probably from the grassy edge of the track. I think they're going to get the snatch recovery to take it to the top of the hill. Yes, they are. It's in attendance. So there'll be a short delay while this car is recovered to the top of the hill. Then we'll be back underway with qualifying. Not very many cars to go, actually. I think it's just 5. Yeah, just 5 cars to go in qualifying. So Will Hall being towed to the top of the hill by our one of our snatch recovery crews. Meanwhile, Dave Uren sits under a brolly at the start line. Getting a message through from Steve Elliott in Jersey. Just caught up on the first run-off, amazing runs and great coverage. Meanwhile, the umbrella has been withdrawn. Dave Uren basking in the sunshine on the start line. Got a helicopter coming into spy. I've been telling you we're not allowed to have drones over Harewood. Undercarriage down. So Dave Uren sitting on the start line still in the Pilbeam Gould GR55B. Flies her down and away. Qualified on a 49.46. Did a 49.2. Country corner. Through Willow. Heading up into Orchard. Charging up towards the top of the hill. Trevor Willis has already started his qualifying run. Dave Uren sweeps to the finish, 49.67, so it should easily get in, although it's no improvement in the class positions for the run. Trevor Willis, meanwhile, heading towards Willow in the OMS 28, qualified for the first run-off for the 48.85. To Farmhouse. Quarry over the line, 48.83. So a handy improvement of 200 of a second. That should see him into the runoff. Meanwhile, heading up into through Orchard is Richard Spedding on his rerun. All important rerun for Richard. Qualified for the first run-off on a 49.37 and sweeps through the last corner with a 50.2. I think that might just about creep in. And I'll be informed it's David Richards of Motorsport UK in the helicopter. Onto the start line, Scott Moran. Qualified for the runoff with a 47.6, with a 47.05 in the runoff. She's only good for second place. Now down towards the S's. Around to Chippies. Okay. Full. And charging already up towards Orchard. He's taken through Orchard. Now into Farmhouse Bend. Powering up the straight. 129. Indicating for the speed trap. Already around Quarry. 47.98 for Scott Moran. So qualifying time for the runoff. Gets him in. Meanwhile, we've got Alex Summers on the hill in the DJ Firestorm. He's just going through Willow, heading up towards Orchard. 48.11 was his qualifying time. He did the 47.62 in the runoff. Alex smoking as he comes out of Farmhouse Bend, charging up towards the top of the hill, through the final corner, 47.97, so qualifies ahead of Scott Moran. Meanwhile, down in the S's, Wallace Mingies. Outright record holder with that 47 seconds dead in the first runoff. Qualified on a 47.53 for the first runoff. Heading towards Farmhouse. Popping and banging as it goes through the corner. Now hitting the power. Charging up towards the top of the hill. 125 in the speed trap. Just Quarry to negotiate through the finish. 47.66. Fastest qualifier for the runoff. Wallace Mingies. Into the classics now with John McKenzie in the Ford Cortina Mark 1. John up into Orchard. 71.98 on his first run was a new personal best for John with this car at Harewood. Used to campaign an OMS 2010. Quite a few runoffs over the years. Now running this Mark 1 Cortina for a couple of seasons. He's up through the finish, 72.08, quite as quick as he was earlier. Les Proctor now heading to Farmhouse in the Austin Heatley Sebring Sprite replica. Leeds the class with his first run 71.95. Les into Quarry and through the finish, slightly slower 72.23, but nevertheless to take the class win. Joe Mackerel in the 1983 Tiga with the 1.6 litre Peugeot engine. Don't often see Peugeot engines in single seaters. Joe, class winner yesterday, through the finish, 63.37, slower than his first run, but nevertheless will take the class win today. We're now into the Yorkshire Centre members class. This is a mixed class, so there's no class record for these cars. There's so many different types and capacities. And this is Stephen Elliott. Stephen's best so far today, a 77.75. Out of Farmhouse Bend, heading up towards Quarry. Through the first element of Quarry, round the final corner, onto two wheels momentarily, and over the finishing line, 79.83. No improvement for Stephen Nicol. Nabil Zarlan, meanwhile, already out of Farmhouse in the Sea at Ibiza. Nabil's best time, 74.02. He's already into the final corner. Goes a little bit wide, 74.62. No improvement for the Seat driver. Into Farmhouse at the moment, Shane Jowett in the Honda Civic Type R. His best time so far today was on his second run, a 68.53. Shane into Quarry for the last time. Over the finish, 68.39. Fractional improvement over that second run. Now have Peter Vincent, VX 220. Supercharged 2.2 litre engine, supercharger screaming away. 65.22 on his second run is the best he's done so far today. And over the finish, slightly slower, 65.66, so no improvement for Peter Vincent. Paul Harris in the Van Diemen set a new PB on his first run with a 67.17. Heading up towards the top of the hill, just Quarry to negotiate. Paul Harris through the finish, slightly slower than earlier, 68.78. And final runner in the Yorkshire Centre members class is Jim Johnston, Triumph TR6. Jim's best time, 68.51, was on his first run before lunch. Jim, nice and tidy as always. A little bit of smoke coming out of the car as he accelerates Quarry straight. Into Quarry for the last time. Over the finish, slightly slower, 69.42. We now move into the Pirelli Ferrari Championship class. And leading the way, Steve Thompson, who got within 100th of a second of the class record on his first timed run to lead the class with a 64.53. This is Steve's first season in motorsport. Can he better 64.53? Oh, a little bit of a hesitation going through the final corner. 64.64, so no improvement for Steve Thompson. Martin Jones now heading towards Orchard in the Ferrari 360. His best time so far today, 80.53. Martin into Farmhouse. Heading up towards the top of the hill. Into the first element of Quarry, through the final corner, over the finish, 81.98, no improvement. Already past the commentary box, Paul Booth in the 458 Spider. He's quickly through the finish line with a 69.99. And not only is that his best time today, but it's a new personal best for Paul Booth. Peter Rogerson now heading towards Farmhouse. Peter in the 360 Modena F1. 77.73, his best time so far today. And the Ferrari class is the points system in the championship is based on predictive times. 80.59 for Peter Rogerson, so no improvement over his second run time. Mark Whibley out of Farmhouse, heading up towards the top of the hill in his 360 Spider. 70.48, the best he's managed. He improves to 70.34. Mark Whibley. Pauline Goodwin into out of Orchard, 3 to 8. Pauline's first run, 72.89, her best so far today. Quarry over the finish, 74.13. No improvement for Pauline Goodwin. Brian Jackson, meanwhile, not taking his third run. John Swift is. John heading into Farmhouse Bend. John's best time so far today, 75 seconds dead. And the final two Ferrari runners are both on track as John Swift heads round Quarry and through the finish, 77 seconds, so no improvement for John. John Kennedy, meanwhile, in the 360 Modena, 67.57 on his first run was a new personal best for John. It's a very wide entry line, clips the grass at the apex, runs wide again, 67.30. So that's a new PB for John Kennedy. David Snelson into Farmhouse, the final runner in the Ferrari class. Second in the class yesterday, current champion. Needs to beat 64.53 to go into the lead. David Snelson not going to do it. It's an improvement to 65.96 for David, but he remains in second place on scratch. I think we've got one more runner to go, and that'll be Richard Jones. I think he's heading down to the start. Because the car is being shared by Les Proctor, who's running after the big single-seaters, the changeover takes a little bit of time. So Richard, I think, will be, yes, he's just about arriving down at the start line. So we'll see him, and then we'll be into the top 12. So Richard Jones being lined up on the start line. The last runner in the classes today. Off and running. 69.69. His best time was on the first run. The S's, round in Chippies, into Country Corner. Now out of Willow, heading towards Orchard. Richard Jones, that's a very pretty little Austin Healey Sebring Sprite replica. Through Orchard. Into Farmhouse. Sweep through Farmhouse. On to Quarry Straight. Just that double apex corner to go through the first element, now into the final elements of the corner and over the finishing line. Slower than he was earlier, 70.48 for Richard Jones. So that concludes the class runs. As yet, I haven't had the running order for the top 12, but hopefully that'll be appearing on a screen close to me.
Attention paddock, I have your top 12. If these cars could be getting ready for me, please. That's car 132, 146, 10, 142, 9, 137, 6, 5, 4, 2, 708 and 1. You could be getting into your cars and awaiting Marshal's instructions. Thank you.
Right, well, they've just given that out over the paddock PA. So first runner will be 1:32, Darren Gumbley. And Darren qualified with a 51.75. Second, 1:46, which is Jack Cottrell. Jack qualified with a 51.15. Then it's number 10, Einan Price. And Einan qualified on a 51.03. Then 1:42. Lee Griffiths. Lee qualified 50.76. Then number 9, David Warburton, 50.55. (137), Richard Spedding, qualified on a 50.2. Then Dave Uren, number 6, and Dave qualified on 49.67. Then number 5, Trevor Willis, 48.83. Number 4, Scott Moran, qualified on a 47.98. Then number 2, Alex Summers, qualified on a 47.97, just 100th slower. Then 7:08, Matt Ryder, 47.96. So Matt Ryder, Alex Summers and Scott Moran covered by 200ths of a second. It's ridiculous. And leading the way, fastest qualifier on 47.66, winner of our first runoff, Wallace Mingies. So those are our top 12. And we'll await their arrival down at the start area. And the first of our runners, Darren Gumbley, making his way down to the start area in the Force TA. No shared drives, so there should be no delays in the runoff once we get cars on track. Should be pretty quick. Can it be as exciting as the last runoff when we had the hill record broken 3 times? Currently standing at 47 seconds exactly, set by Wallace Mingies on the final run of that first runoff. Darren down at the start area. Olivia Cooper, who should have been here this weekend. Flipping well done to Scott, Wallace, Nicola, Matt and Alex for the records. Wish we were there. Both in bed with COVID. Oh dear. Well, I hope you get better soon, Olivia. The marshals are coming down towards the start line, so I'm expecting Darren Gumbley to move forward to get lined up. Jack Cottrell heading down towards the start as well. He'll be second out on track. And following on behind Jack, we've got Ian and Lee. Meanwhile, down at the start line, Darren Gumbley coming to the start with the fourth TA, qualified on a 51.75. So we've no shared cars in the runoff. once we get going, should go well. And Darren is off the way to 1-1 for the first 64 foot. He's already charging down towards S's, and on S approach, 9.51 is the split. Through Chippies, up towards Country Corner, the split going into Country, 20.62. Towards and out of Willow, up towards Orchard now. The split just before Orchard, 31.4. Up through the farm buildings, into Farmhouse Bend, powers out of the corner through the next split, 43.48. Just the final time to come. And Darren over the finish, 51.66. Just that little bit quicker than his qualifying time. Will it be enough to secure him a point? Meanwhile, rolling forward towards the start area, it is Jack Cottrell, the modified Formula 3 Dallara, with his Cosworth V8 in the back. Jack qualified on a 51.15. For the launch, not as quick as Darren, down into the S's, 9.59, he's closing in on the through Chippies, up towards Country Corner, 20.44 is up on the clock already, heading out of Willow, up towards Orchard, the split is before Orchard, 30.95, so half a second up on Darren Gumbley at that point. Into Farmhouse Bend, Jack Cottrell exits Farmhouse. The split at Farmhouse, 42.83. Still that half second advantage. Through Quarry, over the finish, 50.63. Over a second quicker than Darren, and also, let me do a quick calculation, about 4/10 quicker than he qualified. On to the start line, the Welsh wizard himself, Einon Price, in another of the Force TAs. Einon qualified on 51.03 and came 10th in the first runoff. Ready for the start, charging towards Clark, 2.01 for the split, down towards the S's, quickest there, 9.23, sweeping round Chippies, heading up towards Country Corner where we get the next split, 20.4, just ahead of Jack Cottrell. Through Willow already, charging up towards Orchard. 31.46, the slowest to Orchard of the three so far. Einon Price into Farmhouse. And Farmhouse exits. It's 43.47, only just up on Darren Gumbley at that point. Over the finish now, and the clock stop at 51.87. And he drops into third place. So at the moment, it's looking like Jack Cottrell is going to score at least 1 point with that 50.63. Next to the start line, already on the start line, in fact, is Lee Griffiths in the OMS 28. Lee qualified on a 50.76. Away from the start. Heading towards Clark's, the split in the first 64 foot, 2.12, just quicker than, just slower than Darren Gumbley. Down into the S's, it's 9.44, second quickest behind Einon Price. Heading towards Country Corner, 20.11, that's the quickest to Country. Through Willow, now en route towards Orchard. get the split just before he gets into Orchard. 30.63, again the quickest. Up to Farmhouse, Lee Griffiths looking to score points in the runoff. 42.65, quickest to Farmhouse exit, and now round the finish, over the finish line, 50.71, goes second to Jack Cottrell. So it all went south on the run up to the top of the hill, where I suspect the V8 power and torque played its part. Onto the start line, number 9, David Warburton. Qualified on a 50.55. Warburton is away, start, heading towards Clarks. 2.36, slowest start so far. Can he pull out 9.62? Again, slowest down into the S's. Round Chippies, heading up into Country Corner. 20.27, second quickest behind Lee Griffiths at that point. Up towards Orchard. Next split, 30.69, still tucked in behind Lee Griffiths at that point. What can he do on Farmhouse exit? Is it going to be enough to get him ahead of Lee? 42.63, that's the quickest to that point. What can he do at the finish? Over the finish, 50.48, quicker than his qualifying, and he goes quickest overall in the runoff so far. So onto the start line, Richard Spedding. He qualified with a 50.20 in the GWR Raptor. Finished 7th in the first runoff. Away, heading towards Clarks. 2.06 for the launch. Second quickest behind Einan at that point, down into the S's, 9.05, quickest by far. Landing Chippies, heading up towards Country Corner, 19.48, the first sub 20 at that point. So Richard Spedding charging up towards Orchard. The Orchard split 29.79, the first sub 30. Into Farmhouse Bend, through Farmhouse, 41.28, the first one in the 41s. Just Quarry to negotiate, over the finishing line, 48.98 into the lead. Quite dominant run there from Richard Spedding. And, I would say it's about 1.2 quicker than he was in qualifying, so great run from Richard, and looks like he may be getting a little bit more in his return for that run. He was 7th last time. Dave Uren now onto the start line. Dave qualified on a 49.67 with the Gould GR55B. Riser down and away, as it goes off the start line. 2.33 for the launch. Heading down into the S's, 9.24, so just behind Owen Price at that point. Dave Uren out of Chippies, heading up into Country Corner. 20.07, second quickest at that point. En route to Orchard for the next split, 30.23. Again, second at that point. Probably Richard Spedding quicker. Through Farmhouse Bend, exiting Farmhouse, 41.57. Still behind Richard Spedding. Can he pull it back on that last run? Over the finish, 48.78. 2/10 quicker than Richard Spedding into the lead for Dave Uren. Moving forward to the line, number 5, Trevor Willis. Trevor qualified his OMS 28 on a 48.83. That would only be good enough for second place if he repeated that qualifying time. So Trevor on the start, visors already down. He's away, heading towards Clark's, 2.1 for the launch. Third quickest at that point, but 8.84 into the S's, so quickest by far. Trevor Willis out of chippies, heading up into country corner, 19.26. Again, quickest at that point. What can he do on the approach to Orchard? Can he get in the 28s? No, it's a 29.34, still quickest though. Heading towards Farmhouse. Trevor round Farmhouse keeps a nice tight line. 40.72, quickest by far out of Farmhouse, just quarry to go, and he's through the finish, 48.02 into the lead. Now 48.02, I think is quicker than the hill record at the start of the day. So I'm not sure whether that might qualify him for an extra point in this runoff. I'm not quite sure how those extra points for hill records are calculated. So coming to the line now, Scott Moran in the Gould GR59J, qualified on a 47.98. Scotty was second in the first runoff. Just checking the visor. Revs rising away. Heading towards Clark's, 2.15 for the launch. Not the quickest, but it's good enough. Down into the S's, 9.07. Just a little bit behind Richard Spenning at that point. The power will now start to kick in. Scott Moran charging up into the corner, 19.34, just tucked in behind Trevor Willis at that point. Up towards Orchard, 29.23, quickest to Orchard. Into Farmhouse Bend, round Farmhouse, 40.31 into the lead. Can he hold that to the finish? Over the finish line, 47.46 goes into the lead with a 47.46. Moving forward to the start line at the moment, Alex Summers in the DJ Firestorm, qualified on a 47.97. 47.62 in the first runoff for fourth place. Alex. Away, heading towards Clark's, 2.01 for the launch. That's equal to Iron Price. Down into the S's, 8.61, our fastest into S approach. Summers round chippies, heading up towards country, 18.78 into country corner. That's our quickest so far in this runoff. The run now up to Orchard. Into Orchard split 28.65. The first one in the 28s. Into Farmhouse Bend. Power on early, smoking his way up the straight. 39.73. Up through Quarry, over the finishing line. 47.15 into the lead of the runoff. Moving forward to the start line, Matt Ryder, the Gould GR59J, qualified on a 47.96. Matt posted a 47.39 for third place in the first runoff. That 47.39 was an outright hill record at that point in time, but it got beaten twice. What can Matt do this time? Revs away, heading towards Clark's. 2.23 for the launch. Quicker than Dave Uren at that point, down into the S's. 8.9. Third quickest there. Rounding chippies. Clipping the flocker post as he goes. Up into country corner 19.09. That is second quickest. Behind Alex Summers, Matt Ryder charging up towards Orchard, 28.73. Just a tenth behind Alex Summers at that point. Rounding Farmhouse Bend, exiting Farmhouse, 40.08, dropped a little bit there. Through Quarry, over the finish, 47.19, goes into second place. So just the reigning hill climb champion, winner of our first round of the day with a 47.00, Wallace Menges, qualified with a 47.66. Time to beat, 47.15, set by Alex Summers. Wallace rolls down onto the start. Marshall's lining him up. Visor down, Rebs rising his way. 2.09. Fourth fastest at that point, but 8.69, second fastest behind Alex Summers down into the S's. Coming out of Chippies now, up towards Country Corner, 18.89, still tucked in behind Alex Summers at that point. Up towards Orchard, into Orchard, 28.72, still behind Alex Summers at that point. Can he pull it back into Farmhouse? Out of Farmhouse Bend, 39.69, into the lead for Wallace Menges. Just Quarry to negotiate, and over the finish, we've got our 46 seconds, 46.86. Yet another hill record to Wallace Menges here at Harewood, and a victory number 2 on our first weekend of the British Hillclimb Championship at Harewood.
Attention paddock, attention paddock. That concludes today's meeting. Our record-breaking weekend has now come to a close. Please feel free to move your trailers in and out of the paddock. From the marshals, the competitors, and all the officials, we wish you a safe journey home and hope to see you again in June. Thank you.
Right, so our runoff winner, Wallace Menges, with the new hill record, 46.86. In second place, Alex Summers, 47.15. In third, Matt Ryder, 47.19. In fourth, Scott Moran, 47.46. In fifth, Trevor Willis, 48.02. In sixth, Dave Uren, 48.78. In seventh, Richard Spedding, 48.98. In eighth, David Warburton, 50.48. In ninth, Jack Cottrell, 50.63. In 10th, Lee Griffiths, 50.71. And in 11th, 51.66 for Darren Gumbley, and Einam Price, 12th, 51.87. So that concludes the fantastic record-breaking weekend at Harewood. We hope you've enjoyed the meeting. We look forward to seeing you here again later in the season. This is Steve Wilkinson signing off, wishing you all a safe journey home.